All right, get ready for this one because we are diving into some seriously mind-bending stuff today. AI and, well, the future of pretty much everything. You had some really interesting questions about just how fast this tech is evolving.
Yeah.
And, well, Raoul Pal's recent update, he has this exponential view research service. And let me tell you, it's got some eye-opening answers.
It really does. And it's not just that AI is, it's advancing. It's that even the most tech-savvy people, they're barely scratching the surface of what it can already do.
And Pal would know. I mean, this is a macro investor who is always connecting the dots between finance and like new technology and emerging tech.
Right.
But here's the thing that really got me. I mean, he shared this story about using Google's NotebookLM, and it like stopped me in my tracks. So imagine, okay, uploading this massive, dense, full of financial jargon report.
Yeah.
And having AI just instantly turn it into a 20-minute podcast.
And I think what's so key there is it's not just a summary, like bullet points.
Right.
He's talking about a nuanced conversation with two distinct AI voices actually dissecting his 177,000-word financial report.
In real time.
In real time.
It's like having a whole production team.
Right.
Right.
It's wild.
But here's, I think, the real insight. It's not just about automation. It's about AI's ability to like get context, nuance, and then synthesize all that information in a way that I don't think we've ever really seen before.
Yeah, and this is what, this leads into Powell's point about AI being this polymath. He's basically arguing that these models, right, you mentioned ChatGPT, possess an IQ of 120 across every known subject.
Whoa.
That's not just, being smart. That's like having access to the world's smartest experts on any topic you can imagine.
So then it makes you wonder, with that kind of power, like, what are the right questions to even be asking?
Right.
But, I mean, before we even, like, go down that rabbit hole too far, there's this other thing that he keeps talking about. Like, even techies, people who are really into this stuff, most people aren't using AI even close to its full potential.
I think that's right.
We're so focused on, like, the shiny new features, we miss the deeper implications.
Totally. It's like we're being handed like a spaceship and we're still arguing about like, what's the best air freshener to use in the cockpit?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is where I think things get really interesting because Powell says that the like real power of AI, it explodes when you combine it with these big networks.
Yes.
And he uses this example or this analogy of Reed's law, which says the value of a network isn't just about how many people are connected,
right,
but about the exponential growth of like groups and collaborations within that network.
Exactly.
So think about like platforms like Meta.
Oh, yeah.
With its 3.5 billion users. I mean, that's not a social media company anymore. That's like a breeding ground for AI.
For sure.
On a scale that I don't even think we can really wrap our heads around.
Yeah, and this is why, I think it was really humble of Pal to admit this. He's at the forefront of this field, but even he's struggling to keep up with the pace of development.
Yeah.
Because things are moving so fast across so many different companies and research labs, it's really hard to keep track of it all.
It's like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of information, right. And this leads to his point about the dangers of what he calls mid-curve thinking.
It really is like drinking from a fire hose, isn't it?
Totally.
We get so stuck focusing on the limitations, what AI can't do yet.
Right.
That we kind of miss the bigger picture of what it's already capable of doing.
So we're so busy looking at the spray that we don't see where the water's actually flowing.
Exactly.
Yeah, give us an example of what that mid-curve thinking looks like so we can avoid it.
Okay, so think back to that NotebookLM thing we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Like most people hear that and they're like, oh, but AI isn't perfect, or my reports are way too complex to be summarized like that. That's classic mid-curve thinking.
Yeah, we're stuck on whether the podcast would win an award or whatever. Instead of just realizing that an AI can even make a podcast. So how do we break free from that then?
Well, I think Powell uses Elon Musk as a really good example of someone who just operates on a different level.
Okay.
He doesn't get bogged down in the limitations. He looks at the physics of what's possible.
Yeah, he's always talking about the exponential growth of solar power. Didn't he have some stat about how much is added every few months?
Yeah, every 4 months, enough solar capacity is added globally to match the output of 150 nuclear power plants.
Wow.
And that's not about today's technology. That's about understanding the trajectory based on physics and exponential growth.
So it's like zoom out, ignore the bumps in the road, and just focus on the long-term direction.
Exactly.
Okay. But that's got to be tough when it feels like every other week there's some new next big thing.
For sure.
How do we even wrap our heads around that kind of change?
I think that's where that right curve thinking comes in.
Okay.
It's about being able to see beyond those limitations and embrace that potential for exponential growth,
Yeah.
even if it feels uncomfortable sometimes.
I love that idea of right curve thinking. It's like putting on rose-colored glasses, but for the future.
Right.
But how do we actually do that? How do we shift our mindset from this will never work to what if it changes everything?
Well, Pal suggests a few things.
Okay.
And the first is to surround yourself with people who challenge those assumptions you have
Okay.
and kind of expose you to new ideas. Break out of those echo chambers, both online and offline.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Yay.
I mean, it is so easy to get stuck in a bubble, especially online.
Yeah.
Any tips for bursting that bubble?
Well, I think being intentional with the information you're consuming is a big one.
Okay.
Don't just passively scroll through those same news feeds all the time. Seek out those diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
Even, or maybe especially if they make you a little bit uncomfortable at first.
Right.
And remember those AI tools we were talking about earlier?
Oh, so you mean we don't have to do all this work ourselves?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Tell me more.
Well, think about using something like Grok, which is Elon Musk's new search engine.
Right.
That uses AI to create these personalized news feeds based on your interests. So it cuts through that noise and helps you find stuff you might never have found otherwise.
So it's like having a personal researcher who just knows what I'm into and can point me in the right direction.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. But it's not just about the tools, though, is it?
No, not at all.
It's about something bigger, I think.
It's about this idea of lifelong learning.
Okay.
The world is changing so fast that what you knew yesterday might be obsolete tomorrow.
That's scary.
It is a little bit scary.
And exciting.
But also exciting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's on us to make it a habit to always be learning and upskilling.
Okay, but where do you even begin with all this?
Right.
It's like I need to enroll in 1 million online courses just to keep up.
Right. Well, this is where I think focusing on those meta skills is really important.
What are those?
So those are the abilities that are valuable across different domains. So things like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, communication. Those are the skills that'll always be useful no matter how much the world changes.
So instead of being like the world's best engineer, it's about being adaptable.
Exactly.
I like that. What else does he suggest?
It's about experimenting more. The more you experiment, even with things that seem a little bit out there, the more you'll be comfortable with the unknown. And when everything's changing so fast like it is now, that's a pretty valuable skill to have.
Totally. And that actually makes me think, with all this talk about right curve thinking and AI moving so fast, how do we avoid getting overwhelmed? Like if experts like Pal are feeling it, how do we make sure we don't get left behind?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
And I think Pal, being a realist, he knows there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
He even says he struggles with it sometimes.
Wow.
But all those tools we were talking about?
Like NotebookLM?
Yeah, like NotebookLM, ChatGPT, all of those.
Right.
He uses those to manage that complexity.
So it's not about AI replacing humans.
Right.
It's about us using AI to help us through all this new stuff.
Exactly. Think of them as like extensions of your own mind.
Okay.
Helping you process information, making connections. Freeing up your brain to focus on the bigger picture.
That's like having a team of super smart research assistants.
Pretty much.
And they're working for you 24/7.
Exactly.
Okay, suddenly keeping up doesn't seem quite so impossible.
Right. Yeah.
So use ChatGPT to help you summarize some research you're doing.
Right.
Create a learning plan for you, even draft presentations.
Exactly. And upload your ideas to NotebookLM.
Okay.
And let it find those connections you might have missed yourself.
So we can really use these tools to empower ourselves.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, I'm starting to feel a little better about all this.
Good.
Instead of freaking out about being left behind, we can use these tools to help us navigate all this.
Exactly.
But it can't all be sunshine and roses, right?
Of course not.
I mean, there are still challenges, downsides, things we have to be careful about.
For sure. And I know Pal is really concerned about this idea of digital ownership.
What's that?
So in a world increasingly run by algorithms, we're handing over tons of data, our thoughts, our preferences.
Right, he talked about taking photos and letting AI organize them.
Exactly.
He sounds super convenient.
Yeah.
But who controls that data then?
Right.
How are they using it, and what about our privacy?
All important questions, and it goes way beyond just photos. Think about all the stuff we share online, our search history, what we buy.
The social media.
Social media, it's a gold mine for AI.
Yeah.
But it also brings up those questions of who owns that data and how it's being used.
So it's not enough to just be excited about all this.
Right.
We have to be aware of the risks and protect ourselves.
Absolutely. We need to find that balance
Right.
where we can use the power of AI to improve things
Right.
without giving up our values or becoming too reliant on it.
Yeah, we don't want to wake up one day and realize we've created this world where we're constantly being watched or even outsmarted by our own creation.
Exactly. We have to be really mindful about the future we're building.
And that's where right curve thinking is so important.
It really is.
It's not just about the potential of AI, it's about making sure it develops in a way that aligns with our values.
I think that's a great way to put it.
So ask the tough questions. Demand transparency from these tech companies, and let's talk openly about the future we want.
I couldn't agree more.
So to wrap up our deep dive on Raoul Pal's insights, here's the takeaway.
Okay.
The future of AI isn't set in stone. It's a story that's still being written, and we all have a hand in writing it.
It's a future full of both amazing possibilities and potential problems.
Right.
And it's on us to navigate that, to embrace that right curve thinking, and make sure AI helps us become more human, not less.
I love that. And to everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep those questions coming, and we'll keep exploring together until next time.